appearing in vaudeville and movies. The Tijuana Bibles adult comic books produced in Mexico for the American market, starting in the 1930s, often featured women typists. In one panel, a businessman in a three-piece suit, ogling his secretary's thigh, says, "Miss Higby, are you ready for a dictation?" The typewriter was a useful machine during the censorship era of the Soviet government, starting during the Russian Civil War, 1917–1922. Samizdat was a form of surreptitious self-publication used when the government was censoring what literature the public could see. The Soviet government signed a decree on press which prohibited the publishing of any written work that had not been previously officially reviewed and approved. Unapproved work was copied manually, most often on typewriters. In 1983, a new law required anyone who needed a typewriter to get police permission to buy or keep one. In addition, the owner would have to register a typed sample of all its letters and numbers, to ensure that any illegal literature typed with it could be traced back to its source. The typewriter became increasingly popular as the interest in prohibited books grew. Writers with notable associations with typewriters, edit. Early adopters, edit. 1. Henry James dictated to a typist. 2. Mark Twain claimed in his autobiography that he was the first important writer to present a publisher with a typewritten manuscript, for The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, 1876. Research showed that Twain's memory was incorrect and that the first book submitted in typed form was Life on the Mississippi, 1883, also by Twain. Others, edit. 1. William S. Burroughs wrote in some of his novels and possibly believed that a machine he called the soft typewriter was writing our lives, and our books, into existence, according to a book review in the New Yorker. In the film adaptation of his novel Naked Lunch, his typewriter is a living, insect-like entity, voiced by North American actor Peter Borowski, and actually dictates the book to him. 2. J.R.R. Tolkien was accustomed to typing from awkward positions, balancing his typewriter on his attic bed, because there was no room on his desk. 3. Jack Kerouac, a fast typist at 100 words per minute, typed on the road on a roll of paper so he would not be interrupted by having to change the paper. Within 2 weeks of starting to write on the road, Kerouac had one single-spaced paragraph, 120 feet, 37 m, long. Some scholars say the scroll was shelf paper, others contend it was a thermal fax roll. Another theory is that the roll consisted of sheets of architect's paper taped together. Kerouac himself stated that he used 100-foot, 30 m, rolls of teletype paper. 4. Don Marquis purposely used the limitations of a typewriter, or more precisely, a particular typist, in his Archie and Mehitable series of newspaper columns, which were later compiled into a series of books. According to his literary conceit, a cockroach named Archie was a reincarnated free verse poet, who would type articles overnight by jumping onto the keys of a manual typewriter. The writings were typed completely in lowercase, because of the cockroach's inability to generate the heavy force needed to operate the shift key. The lone exception is the poem Capitals at Last from Archie's Life of Mehitable, written in 1933. Late users, edit. 1. Richard Port, a philosophy professor at Xavier University in Cincinnati who collects typewriters, edits etc., a quarterly magazine about historic writing machines, and is the author of the book The Typewriter Revolution, a typist's companion for the 21st century. 2. William Gibson used a Hermes 2000 model manual typewriter to write Neuromancer and half of Count Zero before a mechanical failure and lack of replacement parts forced him to upgrade to an Apple IIC computer. 3. Harlan Ellison used typewriters for his entire career, and when he was no longer able to have them repaired, learned to do it himself. He repeatedly stated his belief that computers are bad for writing, maintaining that art is not supposed to be easier. 4. Cormac McCarthy wrote his novels on an Olivetti Letter, a 32 typewriter, until his death. In 2009, the letterer he obtained from a pawn shop in 1963, on which nearly all his novels and screenplays were written, was auctioned for charity at Christie's for US $254,500. McCarthy obtained an identical replacement for $20 to continue writing on. 5. Will Self explains why he uses a manual typewriter. I think the computer user does their thinking on the screen, and the non-computer user is compelled, because he or she has to retype a whole text, to do a lot more thinking in the head. 6. Ted Kaczynski, the Alabama, infamously used 2 old manual typewriters to write his polemic essays and messages. 7. Actor Tom Hanks uses and collects manual typewriters. To control the size of his collection, he gifts autographed machines to appreciative fans and repair shops around the world. 8. Historian David McCullough used a royal typewriter to compose his books. 9. Biographer Robert Caro has used various models of the Smith Corona Electra 210 to write his biographies of Robert Moses and Lyndon Johnson. Typewriters in popular culture, edit. In music, edit. 1. Eric Satie's 1917 score for the Ballet Parade includes a Mac. A crier as a percussion instrument, along with, elsewhere, a roulette wheel and a pistol. 2. The composer Leroy Anderson wrote the Typewriter, 1950, for orchestra and typewriter, and it has since been used as the theme for numerous radio programs. The solo instrument is a real typewriter played by a percussionist. The piece was later made famous by comedian Jerry Lewis as part of his regular routine both on screen and stage, most notably in the 1963 film Who's Minding the Store? 3. The Boston Typewriter Orchestra, BTO, a comedic musical percussion group, has performed at numerous art festivals, clubs, and parties since 2004. 4. South Korean improviser Ryu Han-kil frequently performs on typewriters, most prominently in his 2009 album Becoming Typewriter. Other, edit. 1. The 2012 French comedy movie Populaire, starring Romain Duris and Deborah François, centers on a young secretary in the 1950s striving to win typewriting speed competitions. 2. The manga, 2015-2020, and anime, 2018, Violet Evergarden series follows a disabled war veteran who learns to type because her handwriting has been impaired, and soon she becomes a popular typist. 3. California Typewriter, a 2016 documentary film, investigates the culture of typewriter enthusiasts, including an eponymous repair store in Berkeley, California. Forensic examination, edit. Typewritten documents may be examined by forensic document examiners. This is done primarily to determine 1. The make and /or model of the typewriter used to produce a document, or 2. Whether or not a particular suspect typewriter might have been used to produce a document. The determination of a make and /or model of typewriter is a classification problem, and several systems have been developed for this purpose. These include the original Haas typewriter atlases, pica version, and non-pica version, and the type system developed by Philip Bouffard, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police's Termatrix typewriter classification system, and Interpol's typewriter classification system, among others. The earliest reference in fictional literature to the potential identification of a typewriter as having produced a document was by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, who wrote the Sherlock Holmes short story A Case of Identity in 1891. In non-fiction, the first document examiner to describe how a typewriter might be identified was William E. Hagen, who wrote, in 1894, all typewriter machines, even when using the same kind of type, become more or less peculiar by use as to the work done by them. Other early discussions of the topic were provided by S. Osborne in his 1908 treatise, Typewriting as Evidence, and again in his 1929 textbook, Question Documents. A modern description of the examination procedure is laid out in ASTM Standard E 2494-08, Standard Guide for Examination of Typewritten Items. Typewriter examination was used in the Leopold and Loeb and Alger-Hiss cases. In the Eastern Bloc, typewriters, together with printing presses, copy machines, and later computer printers, were a controlled technology, with secret police in charge of maintaining records of the typewriters and their owners. In the Soviet Union, the first department of each organization sent data on organizations' typewriters to the KGB. This posed a significant risk for dissidents and samizdat authors. In Romania, according to State Council Decree No. 98 of the 28th of March, 1983, owning a typewriter, both by businesses or by private persons, was subject to an approval given by the local police authorities. People previously convicted of any crime or those who because of their behavior were considered to be a danger to public order or to the security of the state were refused approval. In addition, once a year, typewriter owners had to take the typewriter to the local police station, where they would be asked to type a sample of all the typewriter's characters. It was also forbidden to borrow, lend, or repair typewriters other than at the places that had been authorized by the police. Collections, edit. Public and private collections of typewriters exist around the world, including 1 Sri Maskianen Museum Peter Mitterhofer, Parsons, Italy. 2 Museo della Macchina the Scriveria, Milan, Italy. 3 Liverpool Typewriter Museum, Liverpool, England. 4 Museum of Printing Mop, Haverhill, Massachusetts, US. 5 Chestnut Ridge Typewriter Museum, Fairmont, West Virginia, US. 6 Technical Museum of the Emporda, Figueres, China, Spain. 7 Musée de la Machine Écrire, Lausanne, Switzerland. 8 Lu Hanbin Typewriter Museum Shanghai, Shanghai, China. 9 Wattens Typewriter Museum, Wattens, Austria. 10 German Typewriter Museum, Bayreuth, Germany. 11 Tayfun Talapolu Typewriter Museum, Odunpaysa, Eskişehir, Turkey. Several online-only virtual museums collect and display information about typewriters and their history. 1 Virtual Typewriter Museum. 2 Chaka and Ruch's Antique Typewriter Website. 3 Mr. Martin's Typewriter Museum. Gallery, edit. 1. Peter Mitterhofer 1864 Typewriter. 2. Hansen Writing Ball, invented in 1865, 1870 model. 3. 1868 patent drawing for the Scholz, Glidden, and Soule typewriter. 4. Hammond 1B typewriter, invented 1870s, manufactured 1881. 5. Hammond 1B, as used by a newspaper office in Saskatoon around 1910. 6. U.S. Army Quartermaster soldiers in typewriter repair shop, Tours, France, 1919. 7. Type bars in a 1920s typewriter. 8. Chinese typewriter produced by Shuang, with 2,450 characters. 9. Japanese typewriter Sha 280, a small machine with 2,268 characters. 10. Hermes 3000 typewriter. 11. 1920s Underwood typewriter with Swedish layout. 12. Chinese typewriter at Deutsches Technikmuseum. 13. Typewriter Robotron S1001 from VEB Robotron Electronic at the GDR. This sample is owned by the MEK. 14. Personal typewriter of Mozaffar ad-Din Shah Qajar, the 5th Qajar king of Persia, Iran, made in late 19th century. 15. An Olivetti Studio 45 typewriter. See also, edit. 1 corded keyboard. 2 computer keyboard. 3 duplicating machines. 4 Friedenfleckerwriter. 5 Joniac. 6 letter, alphabet. 7 projection keyboard. 8 teletype model 33. 9 typeface. 10 typescript. 11 typewriter desk. 12 Univac 1102. References, edit.